Very good evening and welcome to Primetime News here on TV1, the voice of the people. For the Newsfirst team, my name is David Paldano. Now, before we head into our stories in more detail, let's first take a look at the headlines this evening.
No gas, no fuel, people on the street. Police constable attached to Kadwila Magistrate Security Detail. Interdicted. Police committee appointed to inquire into security of judges. Bar Association of Sri Lanka meets the opposition leader and the former president. Prime Minister visits on Radhapura amidst public protest. Wrong advice by officials led to the crisis. Namal Rajapaksa tells the BBC.
Now taking a look at one of the headline-making stories. The shortage of gas and fuel is continuing to affect the people of Sri Lanka. This prompted outrage among people, sparking protests in many areas today. We begin our coverage with Senator Sena Naika, who met with protesters at Dematagoda.
It's 7 p.m. here in Dematagoda, and this is the situation in the Dematagoda junction. Residents of Dematagoda have taken to the streets citing the shortage of gas, and these people have been peacefully protesting so far, and they are demanding the government to provide them gas. And because of this protest, the Dematagoda junction has been blocked and the baseline road has been blocked, and we saw vehicles being turned around and going back because of this road being closed.
Demonstrations were also held at the Slave Island junction demanding gas. Some roads leading from Peta to Gangarama and Town Hall were blocked during the demonstration. A protest was held by blocking high-level road at the Navina junction. Tensions flared as a group demanded the protesters to leave.
ආර්ථික වශයෙන් අගාධයට අදිදාලා බංකොලොත් කරලා මේ ජනතාව එකිනෙකා කොටා ගන්න තත්ත්වයට රටපත් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඊයේ රෑ එළියට පෙට්‍රල් පොලිමේ ඉඳලා උදේ පාන්දර 4යි ගෙදර යනකොට ටයර් එකක් පුදිය ගත්තා. ළමයින්ට කන්න ටික උයා ගන්න ගෑස් එක නෑ. මුගේ අස්කා කරගෙන ඉන්නේ.
Protesters didn't allow any vehicles except for ambulances to pass through. For more than 24 hours, people held protests at Armour Street demanding gas.
Gas na, petrol na, diesel na, මිනිස්සු මෙතන දුක් විඳිනවා. මේ ගෝඨාපිට මේ ආණ්ඩුවට දන්නද මේකද?
Protesters set up a tent near the Armour Street police station this afternoon. Tensions arose between the police and the protesters. The protests affected the movement of vehicles along the main road. The protest was then called off after the police intervened to resolve the problem. Gas Lanka Limited says a gas tanker is to reach Sri Lanka next Wednesday. Its chairman Vijay Herat said payments for 2 gas tankers will be made tomorrow. Gas said it hopes to use $120 million from an Indian credit line to pay for the stocks.
Protests are continuing to erupt across Sri Lanka, demanding the government to resign over the crisis that has affected the people. Against such a backdrop, much is being discussed about political instability in the country. Will those responsible officers be able to provide a solution to the main problems in Sri Lanka? Authorities capped the exchange rate at 202 rupees to a US dollar, although economists insisted that it must be allowed to float. But the then Central Bank Governor Ajit Nivad Cabral and Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa insisted that there was no issue in terms of Sri Lanka's foreign reserves. However, what was the end result? Sri Lanka's foreign reserves that stood at nearly $8 billion when the government took office has dwindled rapidly to almost zero. On the other hand, the Sri Lankan rupee continues to depreciate rapidly against the US dollar. Cost of goods are skyrocketing. A shortage of essentials like fuel, gas, milk powder and medicine have left people helpless. As problems continue to worsen, frustrated citizens are now taking to the streets. The government, which insisted that it was making the right decisions, has now approached the International Monetary Fund for assistance. The IMF's mission chief to Sri Lanka, Masahiro Nozaki, has said the IMF will support Sri Lanka based on its conditions. The technical round of discussions between Sri Lanka and the IMF will begin tomorrow and will run until the 23rd of May. Finance Minister Ali Sabri and senior officials from the Finance Ministry and Central Bank will take part in these discussions. The Finance Ministry has said special focus will be drawn towards Sri Lanka's request for a rapid financial instrument from the IMF.
Meanwhile, former Minister Namal Rajapaksa has blamed the wrong decisions of officials for the crisis in the country. This was during an interview with BBC recently.
I was here in December and I spoke to quite a few economists, and that time they said there was no other option than to go to the IMF, and then the rupee should have been floated because people were sending money from abroad through illegal channels. But why the government did not listen to those advice?
It also goes back to the officials who take decisions, because economic decisions cannot be taken by politicians. The government or the finance minister and the secretary or the finance ministers particularly acted upon advice given to him by certain officials, and that is admitted by the current finance minister in parliament, that certain officials gave wrong advice.
Questions are rising on the contribution of politicians who are blaming officials for the crisis. The Bar Association of Sri Lanka is now meeting political parties to discuss solutions to the economic and political crisis. Today, the BASL said it met with President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and explained the need for a national unity government. At the meeting, BASL members had expressed concern on the decision to declare a state of emergency. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had said he will consider the recommendations of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, but he had said this would be done under the constitution. The BASL also met with Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa at Temple Trees this afternoon. The Bar Association of Sri Lanka has outlined a 13-point proposal on the way forward for Sri Lanka. Their main recommendations include the government immediately introduce the 21st Amendment to the Constitution by repealing the provisions of the 20th Amendment and restoring the 19th Amendment, abolition of the executive presidency, the executive presidency to be replaced by a parliamentary form of government where the Prime Minister, as the head of the government and the Cabinet of Ministers, is accountable to Parliament, establish an interim government of national unity consisting of 15 cabinet ministers. The Bar Association of Sri Lanka met with the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and the Samagi Jana Balawegaya this morning to discuss the 13-point proposal. Members of 11 other parties were also present. We discussed extensively with them on the political situation and the solutions to the economic crisis. We also discussed on how the constitutional amendments could be made. We held these talks to see how we could make changes to conduct the parliamentary elections and decide on the presidency. The discussions were successful. With the support of all political groups, we hope to obtain the suggestions of groups such as the Bar Association and explore ways to resolve the country's problems.
The Bar Association of Sri Lanka held its second meeting with the Samagi Jana Balawegaya.
We have put forward the 21st Amendment to the Constitution to abolish the executive presidency. The Bar Association has also submitted its proposals. I think the Bar Association is to meet the President. We must know what the President's response is. What's not important is for politicians to take credit. We have a certain degree of social responsibility. We have a national responsibility as well. We must relieve the people from their worries. We will commit ourselves to that.
දුකෙන් පෙළෙන ජනතාව දුකින් මුදවන්න. ඒ උදෙසා කරන්න තියෙන කැපකිරීම සියල්ලක් අපි ඉෂ්ට කරන්න සූදානම්යි.
මොකද්ද කැපකිරීම දැන් උතුමාලා 21 මේකත් ගෙන්න යනවා. දැන් නමුත් ඔතින්දී රජයක් පිට වෙවි තිනේ දැන් නමුත් උතන බරපතල ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවනේ නේ උතුමාලා ඉල්ලලා සිටින රජය සම්පූර්ණයෙන් රජය ඉවත් විය යුතුයි කියලා. දැන් ඉවත් වුණොත් බාර ගන්න ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා කියලා එතනක් තියෙනවා.
අපි තරේ විශ්වාස කරනවා.
For the country to move forward, we believe the 21st Amendment should be enacted. The country has found itself in this situation because of the executive presidency that bears features of a dictatorship. Abolishing it is an important step towards resolving the people's problems. We are ready to undertake a progressive journey by taking those steps together with the Bar Association's proposals.
The Sri Lanka Podujana Perumana Local Authorities Forum and some trade unions affiliated to the party met at Temple Trees yesterday. They requested Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa to avoid stepping down from his position.
Minister of Mass Media Dr. Nalaka Godaheva said the Prime Minister is likely to resign tomorrow.
In order to find solutions to the economic hardships the people are facing at the moment, the Bar Association and various parties have proposed that the President must take the initiative of forming a government where he will invite all the parties in the Parliament. The President is currently in agreement to this, so at the last cabinet meeting that we had, he proposed the current cabinet must be dissolved and a fresh cabinet must be appointed. It was agreed the best way to do that is to request the Prime Minister to resign, because when Prime Minister resigns, according according to our constitution, the entire cabinet get dissolved. So some people have now misinterpreted this, basically saying that the Prime Minister has been asked to resign. It is not the case. The idea is the entire cabinet has to be dissolved. For that, Prime Minister resigning will pave way for that.
The President and the Prime Minister will have to decide on what would happen. We believe it will happen tomorrow or at an early date.
Now, another one of the headline-making stories, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa visited Radhapura today.
Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa visited the historic Jayasree Mahabodhi in Radhapura this morning. Some people who had gathered there made a request to the Prime Minister as he left the premises. The Prime Minister then called upon Venerable Pallegama Hemaratna Thero, the chief incumbent of the Ruwanmali Mahasaya. He engaged in religious observances at the temple. People who had gathered outside the temple raised their objection against the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister then called upon the chief incumbent of the Mirisawatiya temple, Venerable Dr. Ithala Watumarave Gnanatilaka Nayaka Thero. The group continued to raise their objection towards the Prime Minister.
The fuel crisis, which has left many people helpless, has not been resolved yet. Many queues were seen at many filling stations in the last 24 hours. As political parties continue to tussle for power, people are in queues for fuel. People who were in queue for kerosene in Grand Pass held a protest this morning. They were in queue by blocking one lane of the road running from Orugodawatta to Grand Pass since last night. These are all parents. They can't go to work. We can't do this every day. Don't you understand this? The protest was called off after a fuel bowser arrived at the location. Farmers carried cans and held a protest by blocking the A9 road at the Dambula town. A protest demanding fuel was held by blocking the Kandy Jaffna main road at the Mirisgonia junction. Tensions flared at a filling station in Matale last night after it ran out of fuel. Long queues for petrol were seen in many areas. Many filling stations remained closed today.
මුන් ටික යන්නෙත් නැහැ කරණේකට දෙන්නෙත් නැහැ. හොඳ සැප තමයි.
We are surviving amidst many hardships. They are not allowing us to live peacefully. They must be chased away. I have been here since last morning. They discuss their personal issues in Parliament. There is no benefit for us. Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara says the process of unloading a 40,000 metric ton petrol consignment and a crude oil consignment will begin tomorrow.
News First with the people.
We're going in for a short commercial break. Stay tuned for more of the very latest.
Yasa isuru, pirunu tanak neveka. Lokuma salli tiyena tana. Ape sallit parissam nisa.
ඉහළ ප්‍රතිලාභ සමගින් විශ්වාසනීය තැන්පතුවක්.
LB Yasa Isuru, unparalleled rewards for a trusted deposit.
Welcome back to the news. It has been more than a month since protests began at Goldface opposite the President's office in Colombo. Rochelle Tumodara brings us the latest from the protest area now dubbed Gota Gogama.
Occupy Goldface protest continues for the 30th consecutive day. Now, even though this has been going for 30 consecutive days, we cannot observe a drop in the number of protesters. Now, protesters from all walks of life and all around Sri Lanka joined today as well.
A lot of people are struggling across the country, and it's really not fair. They deserve their basic requirements in life. It's good for all of us to support to bring this change. It's high time the government, the leaders listen to the youth, listen to their voices, allow someone else to take over and run this.
People flocked to the Gota Gogama township at Goldface to voice their objection against the government. Members of the alumni of the University of Colombo added their voice to the protests this afternoon. We are making a demand to the rulers. This system must be changed. The country must be changed. The parliament doesn't represent the people's power. Parliament must be dissolved. The protesters marched towards Goldface. Many people with hearing and speech impairments joined the demonstration. People are dying in queues for fuel. The government has left people helpless. They can hang us. We have no life. There is no medicine at hospitals. There is no one to take responsibility. A petition was also signed at Goldface demanding officials to return the stolen wealth of the Sri Lankan people. Lawyers and several others began a motor rally in Negombo and joined the protests at Goldface. They demanded the resignation of the government. A special puja for goddess Bhadrakali was held at the protest area last night.
Protests at the minor Gogama township opposite Temple Trees entered its 12th day today.
Protests are taking place against the government opposite Temple Trees, the Prime Minister's official residence.
ඔය රට කණ්ඩ නෙවෙයි ඔයාලට ඡන්ද දුන්නේ
අද ළමයින්ට බඩ පිරෙන්න කන්න දෙන්න විදියක්
We have no way to feed our children. There is no milk powder. We can't even travel. Why is this administration deaf to our voices?
ඇයි මේ ඇහුන්නේ වගේ ඉන්නේ
We have been informed that some groups are trying to sabotage this struggle. They may pay and send a group backing Mahinda Rajapaksa to this place. They must bear responsibility for everything that's happening. If an issue breaks out here and if there is bloodshed, Mahinda Rajapaksa should bear responsibility. This is a conspiracy of Mahinda Rajapaksa. He is ruling the country with a conspiracy in mind. They are creating conflicts between the people. This is a crime. We don't need unnecessary fights. There is no need to fight among the people. We need peace and justice.
The Solidarity Walk, organized by the Rotary Club along with the Rotrack Club, got underway this evening. A media briefing was convened prior to the walk. The Solidarity Walk was held under the theme, Listen to the Voice of the People.
If someone asks me what is it you're expecting now in the future, I am saying we are looking for four things. One is a freedom of expression, a freedom of prayer where we can pray to whoever we want, a freedom of want so that everyone is well looked after, and a freedom from fear.
A Q&A session was also held on the economic crisis in the country. The Solidarity Walk began at 5 p.m. along Marine Drive, and the group marched on the pavement without disrupting the flow of traffic. They marched across the protest site opposite Temple Trees and ended at the protest site opposite the President's office at Golface. Sri Lankan expatriates held a protest in the Italian capital of Rome today. They held placards and chanted slogans demanding the government to resign.
Governo fascista, questo ladro, questo criminale, attuale presidente Gotabaya, e gente dice, I lavoratori srilankesi dicono
Sri Lankan expatriates also staged a protest at the Parliament Square in London. Now taking a look at another one of the headline-making stories. The police constable who was assigned to provide security to the Kaduvalla magistrate's residence has been interdicted. Why was the police constable interdicted? The police constable was interdicted for dereliction of duty while on the security detail of the Kaduvalla magistrate. According to the Judicial Service Association, on the 6th of May 2022, the OIC of the Talangama police station had personally inspected the residence of the Kaduvalla magistrate and later gone on to remove the security detail of the magistrate without informing her. The police constable was interdicted based on a report on the incident submitted to the Inspector General of Police by the senior DIG of the Western Province. A communique on the incident released by the police states that a 6-member committee was also appointed to make timely amendments to the security details of the judges. There was weakness in the oversight exercised by the OIC of the Kaduvalla police regarding the security detail. We received reports of the police constable abandoning his post without informing any senior officials. Therefore, the police constable has been interdicted. The matter has been referred to the Police Special Investigations Unit. Disciplinary action will be taken against the OIC of the police. The police has not issued any order directing any officer to remove the security detail of any judge. Was this what really happened, or was the series of events different? When students were protesting peacefully at the entrance to the parliament, they were arrested. The Kaduvalla magistrate Shanima Vijay Bandara released them on bail. After releasing these students on bail, the magistrate faced many threats. She was threatened that her security detail at her official residence will be completely removed. This will definitely pose a threat to the life of the magistrate. The OIC of the Talangama police is the person who removed her security detail. We would like to question as to who tried to insult court and and impinge on the independence of the judiciary through the OIC of the Talangama police.
Talangama OIC mahatmaya hara ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්නට ඉදිරිපත් වුණේ කවුද?
Meanwhile, addressing a letter to the Inspector General of Police, the Judicial Service Association stated that the OIC of the Talangama Police had removed the security detail of the Kaduwala magistrate at her official residence in contravention of the circular issued on the level of security that must be provided to judges. The association pointed out that the disciplinary action should be taken against the OIC of the Talangama Police. The Law Students Union of Sri Lanka convened a media briefing to highlight issues faced by the students of the Sri Lanka Law College in sitting for their exams tomorrow. They requested for the exams to be postponed by 2 weeks for students to sort out these matters.
There is a large number of students who are affected by this. In fact, a majority of the students who are sitting for the exam are affected by this. Considering all of this, we are only requesting for the exams to be postponed by 2 weeks. The students will not request for anything more after that. During this 2-week period, the students will be able to sort out their issues in getting transport and finding accommodation. If the exams are postponed by 2 weeks, the students who won't be able to sit for the exams that are starting tomorrow will be able to sit for the exams. This is more than just a request.
Another phase of the Divi Savya program to distribute dry rations among low-income earning families was held in the Mana district today. The program is sponsored by LOLC. The Divi Savya program, aimed at supporting families in need, entered its 8th day today. Food packs were distributed among these families at 8 locations in the Mana district today. The Divi Savya program aims at identifying families in need and providing them with food packs to help them tide over these difficult times. The Sri Lanka national cricket team left for Bangladesh for a 2-match test series today.
I think Bangladesh is a very strong team, and if you take them lightly, you are fooling yourself. We got a very good squad. We need to go out there and, as I said before, play our best game and do our very best.
Dimut Karunaratne will lead the Sri Lankan side that will consist of senior players Angelo Matthews, Dinesh Chandimal, Dhananjay De Silva and Kusal Mendis. Kamil Mishara, Dilshan Madhushankar and Suminder Lakshan are the new players to be drafted into the squad. Sri Lanka will play its first test against Bangladesh next Sunday.
And with that, we wrap up primetime news here on TV1, the voice of the people. For the Newsfirst team, I'm David Paldano. Take care and good night.